Hey, everybody, it's Tim. Welcome to episode 30 of Live and Found. And today we're going to continue our journey through how AI has changed and has matured, especially when it comes to search. So today it's what AI verifies before visibility happens. Remember in episode 28, we talked about that AI visibility didn't break, the system just matured. Instead of filling in the gaps and absorbing inconsistencies, commonly called hallucinations, AI now prioritizes confidence earlier in the evaluation process. And then last time in episode 29, we unpacked what it means in practice. How it's decided at a confidence boundary. When sufficient agreement, when there is significant agreement, the search stops, and that's when selection happens. So today we're going to go one layer deeper. We're not talking about when the decision happens. We're talking about what happens before and what gets it evaluated so the decision can happen. Again, AI doesn't trust, it verifies. So let's talk a little more about what that shift looked like. In the old model, before AI matured, you did accumulation. And what we meant by that is you posted more, you added more pages, you expanded platforms. Like you said, oh, I need to be on X. Or, oh, I need to do TikToks. That kind of stuff when we talk about expanding platforms. And what happened was visibility slowly built. And then you did what's called is a gradual fade. And what's a gradual fade? Well, in terms of a Google list, right? You went from maybe being on page 1 to page 2. And then you went maybe faded down to even page 3. You were still there, but exposure kind of tapered off. It kind of went down, but it just didn't disappear overnight. It was a gradual falling down the list. And the biggest thing that happened is AI absorbed and filled the gaps. So the imperfections were accepted. And it filled the gaps, it reconciled any inconsistencies or tried to. And so it tried to find answers. And let's be honest, sometimes those answers became hallucinations. It was designed to complete answers and to find what it thought was best. In other words, the system prioritized completion. Now we have the shift, and the shift was a gradual shift, but as we said before, it's because AI matured. It grew stronger, it grew more confident in its answers, and so things shifted from the old way of, I'm going to fill this gap for you, to, I want you to be exact. And I'm only going to give answers when I know the exact answer. So right now we have a layered evaluation. So AI moves through checks. Can it access you? Is your identity clear? Are your claims consistent throughout your web page, your postings, on your FAQs, your blogs? Are you consistent? Visibility now isn't one decision. It's a sequence of verification steps and stops to make sure everything aligns for AI. And it's an on-off switch. It's a binary resolution. When confidence is reached, it's on. It's going. The answer is found. It's going to stop. It's not going to keep searching. It's going to give the answer that it wants to give, or it gives it. So it doesn't go on. It doesn't keep trying to find an answer. It doesn't fill the gaps. If there are gaps or there are inconsistency, AI is not going to pick you. It's going to go on to the next answer. And that's where the boundary crossing we talked about last time. So it's when agreement, reinforcement, and clarity are all strong enough, and AI feels confident, it stops that search. And that's the decision boundary. So visibility is not built. It is granted when verification is satisfied. That's totally different. So the old school would be, let's fill the gaps, let's build it together and get you something close to what you're looking for. It's not that case anymore. When verification is satisfied and found, everything stops, the answer is handed to people and is given. All right. So let's talk about layers. There are 5 layers that we're going to talk about today that are important to remember for AI visibility. And let's start with the first one. The base one is accessibility. If AI can't crawl you, nothing else is going to matter. You need to be crawlable, you need to have technical openness, and you need to have sitemap clarity. It needs to be simple, it needs to be clean, and it needs to be so that AI understands it. If access exists, then evaluation continues. So if AI can crawl your site, if AI can go to all your pages, you don't have any 404s, you don't have any 404s are pages not found for those who have never encountered that before. Or it doesn't have anything that, or your sitemap, for example, is messy, is hard to understand by AI, then the crawling is going to stop and it's going to go on to somebody else. But if it hits all 3 of those things and it's simple, it's clean, AI is going to go on to our next layer, which is layer 2 of identity clarity. And identity clarity is just, who are you? What do you do? Are you consistent everywhere? And so that's a very important part. You got to answer who you are. If your business is a furniture store, you need to answer, we're a furniture store located in Denver, Colorado. And what do? We sell high pieces of furniture for discerning people. And even that might be too complicated for AI. So you just want to answer it simply and clearly for AI. If a human can understand it, AI can understand it. So you don't want to be subtle. You don't want to have any of the cuteness that sometimes we humans like to think people like. People really don't like cuteness. They want straightforward answers, and so does AI. And you need to be consistent. So if you say we specialize in bedroom sets in one post, and then you say we specialize in office furniture in another, and we specialize in high-end living rooms in another, you really can't specialize in everything. You need to pick one, specialize in it, but then you can introduce the other items later. So what do you need to have is your one identity needs to be clear. And once that is done, your clarity and your authority is measured. Which then brings us on to layer number 3, which is the authority signals. Authority signals are what makes you you. And we're talking about credentials. We're talking about licensure. We're talking about demonstrated expertise. We've talked about this a lot in the past. What you want to do for demonstrated expertise is Q&As are huge for that. If you can do a video Q&A, that's great because you're showing an actual customer, let's say, asking that question, and you're answering it with authority. Huge for AI, huge for AI. And reinforce claims. Your blogs need to reinforce, hey, we discovered this the other day when we were selling a dining room set to a customer, and they asked about, what kind of brand is this? So you show your authority in that the answer. That's where blogs come in big. So what you want to do is you want to make sure you highlight your credentials, your licensures. Do that on your About You. Do that on your opening page. You want to demonstrate your expertise, your Q&As, your posts. We'll do that great. And you want to do reinforced claims. That's where your blogs can step in and really help you verify and show those authority signals. Remember, authority isn't claimed, it's cross-referenced and it's earned. And that's huge for AI. It needs to cross-reference and find it. A great example of this is we were working on a lawyer's site yesterday, and he's in a lot of organizations. He's in the Bar Association in his state. He's in the Trial Lawyers Association for his state. He's on numerous lawyer verification databases. And we highlighted that on his website to make sure that AI can crawl not only his website, but can crawl through those verifications and those licensures and those certifications, because that's big, because it shows that he is doing what he is preaching about. In other words, he is the expert because he is in these organizations and is an active member of them. So that brings us now down to layer 4. Layer 4 is the cross-context agreement. And this is really, for a lot of places, this is the silent killer. This layer will determine how well you're seen, or more importantly, how well you're not seen. So we want to make sure your website is saying what your social media says, and that your FAQs are reinforcing what your website and your social media is saying, and making sure your schema is aligned perfectly to everything you're saying. So if your website says one thing, your social says another, and your FAQ says something different than those two things, and it doesn't agree to either one of them, AI is not going to stop. You're not going to be found because you're showing those conflicts. And if your schema is misaligned and you're not specific in your schema, AI is going to skip you and move on as well. AI is looking for agreement. It's not looking for activity. That is the one thing you have to remember. You can't always fix your AI visibility by posting more and more often. What you need to do is make sure whatever is misaligned gets aligned. Once everything's aligned, then go back to your regular scheduled postings. And then, of course, we'll wrap up with layer 5, and that's stability over time. So AI evaluates patterns. It doesn't evaluate moments. AI is not a moment in time type of application or tool. AI is exclusively looking for and evaluating the patterns that make you, you. So if you have sudden shifts in focus, or you're creating directional confusion in your services, one week you are doing, like we talked earlier, you're doing bedroom sets. And the next week you say, no, we're more importantly, this is better. The dining room sets are better, or the living room is better. You want to make sure you flow and you have a directional plan and avoid the directional confusion that sometimes happens. Messaging that changes dramatically over short periods of time confuses AI, confuses people, and that again is a reason to be skipped. All of those things, when you have your sudden shifts, your directional confusion, your messaging that changes, that reduces confidence with AI. Stability reinforces authority. Volatility reduces it. AI is not checking clarity today. It's checking whether clarity has been consistent yesterday, the day before, last week. Stability creates confidence. Volatility reduces it. All right. So how do businesses misread the problem? Well, what you want to do first thing is make sure you frame it calmly, okay? So when we see a problem, you want to frame it. What is my problem? What caused it? And now let's bring it home. Most businesses feel that the silence they're creating, or they found, and they assume the problem is from lack of activity. So they respond in trying to make more. They respond by doing motion. So they do more postings. They expand to new platforms, like we talked earlier. They start doing more TikToks. They start, instead of doing one blog, maybe every 2 weeks, they do a blog a day. They rewrite everything. And they're even rewriting parts that have worked and are working. They're rewriting because they don't think that it's working for AI. And they're publishing faster. They're adding more pages to the website. Oh, what I need is more FAQs. What I need is more blogs. No, they're increasing output across the board. That's acceleration. It's not urgency. It's not strategy. You're just creating movement. AI wants to see movement in a positive direction. It wants to see that you are being consistent in your movement in one direction. If you scatter everything and you start posting more and things look, scattered, like we just said, AI is not going to respond positively to it. Again, it's going to skip you and move on to something else. So the core correction, if the issue is verification, acceleration introduces more of those inconsistencies. Alignment solves what activity cannot. Let me say that again, because that's so important. And I think it's something that you have to remember. Alignment solves what activity cannot. Alignment solves what activity cannot, and we need to slow things down. Get aligned. Find your best message. Find the message that best reflects you and use that and align to that message. When you do that, AI is going to respond. All right. So AI doesn't decide visibility based on who's the loudest, who posts the most, who has the most activity. It decides based on who survives that layered verification, those 5 layers we just talked about. When agreement is strong enough, the search is going to stop. And it's going to stop on you. And that's what you want. You want the search to stop on you. And that's the boundary that we talked about last week. Next time, we're going to go in a couple of weeks on episode 31. We're going to go deeper into how confidence is formed and measured and not guessed. As usual, look for our blog to be posted next Thursday. Follow us on LinkedIn. Follow us on Facebook. Follow us on X. We are there. We're posting every day or almost every day for you to get this reinforced and answer any questions you have. And of course, if you need to talk to us, we're at www.youraiwizards.com. Just click the consult button and we'll get back with you. Thanks so much for sitting with me when we talked about episode 30. Such a vital part of where we're going, and probably it's the best one to decide what gets you solved. And we'll see you next time for Live and Found.